A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Today we gather here at Surah Kita, inshallah, to learn more about the halal foods that Allah has said in Al-Quran. The perseverance in halal foods, but inshallah we will open today's lecture with a recitation of Surah Al-Baqarah with Sister Tasa.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. The translation is in Indonesian, is okay? Hai sekalian manusia, makanlah yang halal lagi baik dari apa yang terdapat di bumi. Dan janganlah kamu mengikuti langkah-langkah syaitan, karena sesungguhnya syaitan itu adalah musuh yang nyata bagimu. Innama harrama alaikumul maytata waddama walahmal khinziri wama uhilla bihi li ghairillah faman yadturra ghaira baghin wala 'adin fala itsma 'alaihi innallaha ghafurur rahim. Sesungguhnya Allah hanya mengharamkan bagimu bangkai, darah, daging babi, dan binatang yang ketika disembelih disebut nama selain Allah. Tetapi barang siapa dalam keadaan terpaksa memakannya, sedang dia tidak menginginkannya dan tidak pula melampaui batas, maka tidak ada dosa baginya. Sesungguhnya Allah Maha Pengampun lagi Maha Penyayang. Shadaqallahul adzim.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, Jazakillah khair, Sister Tasa. So, share inshallah, today we are going to discuss about the halal foods and drinks, which is and also the boundaries as well, and maybe nowadays living here in Melbourne, Australia, there we like meet the restaurants that say halal, but they're also like non-halal foods and drink as well. So like, can we say that as a halal, or can we go there, or so like what boundaries that we can accept or not accept? And inshallah, tafadhal share for the lessons today.
طيب thank you. شكرا جزاكم الله خير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه واجعلنا مما يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه وأدخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. طيب, first of all, jazakum Allah khair for your attendance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring about barakah and blessing and to this wonderful gathering, and may it be in our scale of good deeds Yawm al-Qiyamah. Eid Mubarak as well. We're still today's the last day of Eid, so alhamdulillah, Eid Mubarak to everyone. I pray that it was a blessed Eid for all the Muslims around the world. So in the topic of halal food, it's a very broad one actually, very broad topic, and that's why I'd like to begin with just a bit of an introduction before getting into some of the technicalities of that. Just to talk about the Sharia and how it sort of outlines what is halal and what is haram, some of the general rulings when it comes to that. Because when we talk about halal, what is halal, what is haram, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's anything out there, it all stems from general rules in Islam. They all stem from general rules, qawa'id. Okay, so for example, halal food, we're talking about halal food, it stems out from rules. Now, these rules are taken from the Quran. These rules are taken from a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. When it comes to halal food, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said in the Quran, يسألونك ماذا أحل لهم قل أحل لكم الطيبات. When they ask what has been made halal for them, they ask the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. طبعا this is throughout the time of Tanzil, when the Quran was being revealed. They asked him, Ya Rasulullah, what is halal? What is halal for us? So Allah Azza wa Jal, He gave them a general ruling here. He said, قل أحل لكم الطيبات. Tell them that the طيبات are made halal for them. الطيبات meaning all that is good. All that is good. So all that is good, the general rule in Islam, okay, al-asl, and this is a qaida that has been extracted from this verse and others like this verse, that states that al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. The asl, the origin of everything is that it is mubah, it is allowable in Islam. Al-asl fil ashya al-ibaha. So everything, the general rule in Islam is that everything is allowed. Everything is allowed except what the Sharia has outlined and stated that it is haram. Okay? So if you look at food, for example, everything is halal when it comes to food, except for what is outlined in the Quran. That's what we're going to talk about as well, inshallah ta'ala. And also Allah Ta'ala said in other ayat, أحلت لكم الطيبات وحرمت عليكم الخبائث. The tayyibat, the good things that come from goodness are halal for you, made halal for you, and things that come from al-khubath, meaning from things that are evil, things that are bad, there's no goodness in them, then these things are made haram for you. Allah Ta'ala is telling us in the Quran. This also applies for for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also specified to us the amount, not only what is halal and haram, but also, for example, when it comes to food, the amount of food. Allah ta'ala gave us a general again, where He says, Azza wa Jal, Ya bani Adama, خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين. Allah Ta'ala said, O son of Adam, dress your best of clothing at the masjid and eat and drink. Eat and drink as you please. Allah has made it very easy for us, but He put a condition there. He said, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا, but do not waste. So He opened up the rule for us again in this ayah. The general rule itself, eat, drink, as long as it's from the tayyibat, which was specified in the other verse. But also Allah Ta'ala also added, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا, and do not waste. For indeed Allah Ta'ala does not love those who waste. So this is, these are sort of, when we talk about halal, haram, they stem from these rules. We want to talk about also, another even more general rule in regards to halal and haram. If we go to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, peace be upon him, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. لا ضرر ولا ضرار, meaning لا للنهي. لا meaning it's nahi, it's forbidding. When Prophet said la in this particular hadith, it's for nahi, it's for forbidding. It said, it is forbidden upon you anything that harms you and harms others. So this is a very general rule when it comes to that. So you can apply that for eating and drinking. You can apply that for anything in your life. It's a general rule. So if someone says to you, for example, طيب, let's say drugs aren't mentioned in the Quran, and this is unfortunately something that a lot of may Allah guide some of our brothers and sisters use this as an excuse, and this is a very ignorant approach. We said to them, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. Drugs harm you. Drugs distort your mind, they harm your body. And Allah and Prophet says, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. Everything that harms others and so forth is haram. That's it. It's a general rule. So, and that's why our deen is so beautiful, because it encompasses everything. If there is if it's not specifically mentioned in the ayah, there is always a general rule that will encompass these matters. And for example, the Prophet ﷺ in the Sunnah, when it comes to food, he specified as well. For example, everything is made halal for us. For example, the birds. Birds are all halal to eat, all of them. But there are also specific birds that we're not allowed to eat, that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned to us in the Sunnah. He said in the hadith narrated, or it was told to us by Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. He said, حرم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الطيور التي الطيور ذي مخلب، الطيور التي تحمل ظفرا. جزاكم الله خير. الأظفار, meaning the birds that have what do they call it? The claws. The dhufr, the sharp, such as the eagle, the eagle and the hawk and the falcon. All these birds are birds that are haram for us. The vultures, they're haram for us to eat. But the general rule is that everything is halal. So it's not the other way around, that only what's specified is halal. La, everything is halal except for what is specified as haram. So Prophet ﷺ gave us that these birds are haram. Why? There's a wisdom Allah Ta'ala knows. When you eat these birds, because they eat they eat dead carcasses, they eat all sorts of things. So there's a wisdom behind this. And he also told us, alayhi salatu wassalam, that all animals, ad-dawab, that walk on the earth, that they're halal, except for the ones that have mikhlab, that have the claws as well, like the siba', that have claws, such as the tiger, the dog, all these animals with the claws, the siba', the meat-eating animals. So they are all haram for us to eat. So this has been made also very clear to us in the Sharia. So when you look at something, as a product itself, this is the rule to go by. Now, there's also another aspect that we need to also consider when we're looking at the food, the halal food itself. How does it become halal? Obviously, when you eat something, you're not gonna consume it while it's alive. You're gonna have to slaughter it. You're gonna have to kill it, and that is also specified to us in the Quran and Sunnah. So there's an ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about these specific foods and when they become haram for us. The condition or the situation when they become haram. And we're talking about even foods that are these are foods that are in essence halal. So for example, we ruled out that everything, all the the carnivore animals, the ones with the claws, they're haram, yeah? We ruled out, the birds that, also with the claws, they're haram. Now, what about the food that's halal? For example, the beef, for example, the sheep, the camel, the goat, all these foods, the birds generally, they're all halal for us, true? طيب, does that mean that they're halal for us in every single situation? No. They're not halal. They're halal only in certain, if they are slaughtered or they are killed in certain ways. So they have to be also those foods that are in origin halal. They have to be prepared halal as well. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this very clear to us in the Holy Quran. Allah ta'ala said, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ وَمَا أُهِلَّ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ بِهِ وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ وَالْمَوْقُودَةُ وَالْمُتَرَدِّيَةُ وَالنَّطِيحَةُ وَمَا أَكَلَ السَّبْعُ إِلَّا مَا زَكَّيْتُمْ وَمَا ذُبِحَ عَلَى النُّصُبِ وَأَنْ تَسْتَقْسِمُوا بِالْأَزْلَامِ. These are 10 situations Allah Ta'ala has made these foods haram, except for of course the swine, the pig. The pig is haram, whether it's slaughtered in a way that is halal or not. The pig is haram li'aynihi, for itself, in itself is made haram for us. Okay, except obviously in situations in desperate situations, which we'll talk about. Now, Allah Ta'ala said, it has been made haram, the following. Allah made it clear in this ayah. It has been made for you haram, the following. Al-Mayta. Al-Mayta meaning the dead carcass. The dead carcass. So if you find a dead cow or a dead sheep, and it hasn't been you haven't taken it while it's alive and slaughtered it, it's haram. You can't touch it. It's najis. It becomes najis. You can't eat it at all, and you can't use, you can't take any benefit from it if it's been already dead. So its life has its soul left, and you found it in that way, in that form. Al-Mayta, this is haram, and this is najis. You can't make use of it. Ad-Dam, also the blood. The blood is also haram. We can't eat blood. We're not allowed to eat blood. Only in a situation Prophet ﷺ made specific. When it comes to the liver and the kidney, if the blood in that is okay, because there's a hadith in the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ, and he specifically mentioned these two. Otherwise, we can't eat blood. You can't drink blood, And it's funny to say this because there are cultures that do. There are, like, some make these sausages. If you heard of them, they make sausages they put blood in them. And so there are those who eat and drink blood. Subhanallah. This is haram in Islam. If a bit of blood, because the Prophet said, "Ad-dam al-masfuh." Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, أو دما مسفوحا قل لا أجد فيما أوحي إلي محرما على طاعم يطعمه إلا أن تكون ميتة أن يكون ميتة أو دما مسفوحا فإنه رجسا أو فسقا أهل به لغير الله. So Allah Ta'ala said الدم المسفوح, meaning blood that is liquid, it's in it. But if it's blood within the meat itself, sort of, it's sort of dissolved in, then this is okay. This passes through. That's why I said dam masfuh. So this is haram. Allah Ta'ala said, وَلَحْمَ الْخِنْزِيرِ, the swine, the pig meat, this is haram. We know this. And this includes everything that is extracted from it. everything that is extracted from it is haram. Now the ulama spoke about the lahm al-khanzir, for example, some of the things that they use from, or some of the things that they extract from khanzir. Some of the ulama, such as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he went into a bit of detail with this, and he said, يعني, there's a qaida called al-istihlal, meaning when he said when an extraction of something that is haram, when its original يعني, form changes, its molecular form changes, يعني, then he gave an exception to this, that it's no longer a part of that. So there's differences of opinion in this. Okay, what we say generally is, if you're not comfortable with it, don't go near it. It's better not to go near it if you're not sure of it, because we live in this country, and you know, it's all around us. We don't live in an Islamic country where there is an overseeing body that that sort of monitors these things and goes through these things in great detail. We don't have that. So we have to do our own homework. Alhamdulillah, we have our, you know, halal certification bodies. They do their best, but they don't oversee everything. Obviously, the market is huge. There are so many foods out there. We don't know what's gone through that halal process or not. So general rule is that al-khinzir and everything, and its extract, its skin, its bones, its anything that comes from it, from the pig, is haram. And I forgot to mention that when we talk about the dead carcasses, there's also an exception to that rule. Two things. What are they? Who can tell me? You can eat an animal that is made halal. It's already, you caught it and it's dead. Already dead. What is it? Fish. And what's the other one? The other one is, you're probably not going to know it. It's the locust, jarad. You know the locust? The locust, it's that brown colored insect that eats the harvest. You know this one? You know what I'm talking about? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned this in the hadith. He said, حِلَّتْ لَكُمْ حُرِمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ الْمَيْتَ إِلَّا مَيْتَتَانِ. All that is dead is haram except for two things. He said the fish, okay, and we know the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, الطهور ماؤه الحل ميتته. The ocean, Prophet ﷺ said, its water is tahur. Tahur, what does tahur mean? What's the difference between tahir and tahur? Let's say your fiqh knowledge. الطهور هو الطاهر في نفسه والمطهر لغيره. Water that is tahur is the water that you can make wudu in and make ghusl in. It's the one that is pure. It's not mixed with anything. Okay, you can actually, it's pure in itself, and it purifies others. It purifies other things. But at-tahir is something that is pure in itself. It's not najis, it's pure, but it cannot be used to purify. For example, tea. You can't make wudu in tea. Yeah? For example, يعني, and how do we know this? What does the rule say when something is tahir and turns from tahur to tahir? We know this because, you know, there are three things that change. If they change in its form, it becomes tahir. It moves from the form of tahur to tahir. Three things. إذا تغير طعمه أو لونه أو ريحه. If its taste is changed, its smell, and its color. These three things, if they change in a liquid, in the water or the liquid, it becomes tahir. And you can't make wudu and you can't make ghusl in it. So back to the topic. So these two dead dead animals are halal. The only two. Where a fish, you can take it, you can remove it. If you find it dead, as long, obviously, you make sure hasn't been dead for too long, so you don't get sick from it. But it's halal to eat it. And subhanAllah, this shows how easy our Sharia is. Allah Ta'ala makes things easy for us, subhanAllah. Imagine how difficult it will be if you had to slaughter the fish, because people, catch fish in large quantities all at once. So there's always a hikmah, always a wisdom behind it. So the blood, ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به. وما أهل لغير الله به, meaning what other than the name of Allah has been mentioned on it when it was slaughtered. So you're not allowed to eat something except if the name of Allah is mentioned on it. ولا تأكلوا مما لم يذكر اسم الله عليه. Allah says in the Quran. And do not eat from what Allah's name has not been mentioned. Okay, this is important. So back in the Jahiliyyah, even today, people say Bismi, anything other than Allah. This is haram. It becomes haram immediately, even if it's slaughtered in an Islamic manner, in a manner that is Sharia compliant. It's still haram. Name of Allah has mentioned. Then Allah Ta'ala says, وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةِ, and the animal that has been choked to death. An animal that has been choked to death. For example, an animal that suffocates. It was being shipped from one place to another. It was put in a container, and it suffocated from lack of air. You can't eat it. It becomes immediately. It becomes if it dies through that, even meaning if it's in a state, if you get to it in a state where it's breathing its last breaths due to suffocation, then it's haram to eat it, even if you kill it. والمنخنقة. طبعا, by the way, not every animal needs to be slaughtered. You can also, for people who hunt, people who shoot an animal, or people who use the arrow and the spear, you can also hunt. Through hunting, you can also eat it. It's halal. You just say, Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, he said, إذا أرسلت كلابك المعلمة, if you send your taught dogs, because back then they used to use the dogs as well. They always used to use the dogs for hunting. So you're allowed to hunt using the dogs. He said, فَسَمِّ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ, say Bismillah and send them off. And if they catch it, if they catch it, they kill it. As long as they don't eat it from it themselves, then it's halal. If you shoot an animal, you say Bismillah, you shoot it and it dies, it becomes halal. You don't have to slaughter it. So these are all exceptions, but these are all in the Sunnah. We didn't get them from just our own sort of analogies. This is all from the Sunnah. And then Allah Ta'ala said, وَالْمَوْقُودَ, it's the one that is hit hard and it comes to its point of death from hitting. At that point, you can't slaughter it and eat it. If it's dying from being beaten. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَالْمُتَرَدِّيَ, also the animal that falls from a high place. It falls, it's coming to its death, خلاص يعني, because subhanallah, there must be a great hikmah from this, because an animal, يعني, why is it when we come to slaughter an animal that we hide the knife? Prophet ﷺ said to hide the knife. Because I think mentally, يعني, internally, the animal has to be in a state where it is not being in a state of suffering for the meat to remain proper, to remain edible, and you know, the suffering is not allowed in Islam. So that's why Allah Ta'ala mentioned all these things. One that is choked, one that falls from above, one that is beaten, because these are animals that are going through extreme suffering and they're dying from it. One natiha, an animal that is head butted by another animal. You can't eat that one. Okay? And also, number 9, وَمَا أَكَلَ السَّبْعُ إِلَّا مَا ذَكَّيْتُمْ. And whatever the sab'a, whatever the carnivore eats. So, if you come to an animal that is being eaten by another animal, and the animal's halal to eat, but it's being eaten by another, you can't eat it unless you slaughter it. Unless you slaughter it, you know, then that's fine. إِلَّا مَا ذَكَّيْتُمْ, Allah Ta'ala said. And then finally Allah said, وَمَا ذُبِحَ عَلَى النُّصُبِ. And what was slaughtered on the altar. The altar is like a table that you used to use, you know, made out of rock or concrete, and they used to slaughter for their gods, for their pagan gods at the time. This is haram, obviously. This is not allowed. Allah Ta'ala says, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ غَيْرَ مُتَجَانِفٍ لِإِثْمٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And as an exception to all of this that we mentioned, if someone is in a form of a state of need, necessity, اضطرار, then they're allowed to do that. As long as they're not seeking haram by doing so, they're not doing it knowing it's haram, and they're not in a desperate state, then they can eat from it. Only enough to keep them alive, and that's it. طيب. Also, there's the adab of ta'am that most of us know. You know, when we eat, we say Bismillah. Prophet ﷺ said, إذا أكلت فكل فسمي بسم الله وكل بيمينك وكل مما يليك. If you eat, always say Bismillah, eat with your right and eat from in front of you. Don't go putting your hand to the middle of the plate, or, you know, especially in the middle. When you have a big, like a plate with food in it, okay, why can't we eat from the middle and begin from the middle bit? Who can tell me? This is important. Okay, so you have like a big plate, yeah, for the family. You put it on the table for everyone to put in their plate from it, yeah. So we know that we should eat from the sides of it. Why is it that we shouldn't start from the middle? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, he said, when you eat from the side of the plates, and do not eat from the middle, because the barakah comes down into the middle. The blessing, Allah brings down the blessing into that plate from the middle of it, into a big plate, yeah? Of course, when you finish around it, then you can start eating from the middle, that's fine. But you shouldn't start from there, because you're taking away the barakah. So subhanAllah, look how beautiful our Sharia is. From specifying to us what is good and what is good for us, and you know, and what is bad for us, so that we are careful and aware of this, from specifying the types of foods that we should and shouldn't eat, and that also that also shows us the extract, what is extracted from these foods as well, to even the food that is halal, that has been made halal and prepared halal and everything, but to the point where you put it into your mouth. Allah Ta'ala says, say Bismillah, eat from with your right, eat from in front of you. So throughout the entire process of the food, there is ibadah involved in it. Subhanallah. See how beautiful our deen is. See, just from this example alone, we see why we understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to us, Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You are the best ummah that is sent to the people. And we understand when Allah Ta'ala said, and now is the time of Hajj actually, and this verse was revealed at this time, it was revealed on the day of Arafah. On the day of Arafah last Sunday, Allah Ta'ala revealed, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-islam dina. And today I have completed your deen and my blessing upon you, and accepted Islam as your deen. And this is for not just, this is the completion of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay, it just didn't begin from the ummah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It started from the beginning, from before. So the deen of Allah came down in stages. We know that. And subhanallah, we are a special ummah, a most beloved ummah to Allah Azza wa Jal, that He made His deen, His entire deen complete in all aspects. There is not a thing in the Quran Sunnah except Allah has included and warned us of or encouraged us to do. Everything is there, subhanAllah. Alhamdulillah, this is a beautiful ni'mah from Allah. So on the day of Arafah, that ayah was revealed. Today I've completed your deen. And we know the story of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, when a Jewish man approached him. He said to him, one verse in your book, if it was revealed upon us, the Jews, we would take that day as a Eid. He said to him, what's that verse? He said, he recited قوله تعالى اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Meaning the completion of the deen. And Umar, peace be upon him, he said, Wallahi, I was present at the time this ayah was revealed unto Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was revealed on a Friday, on a day of Arafah, while the Prophet sallallahu was there in Hajj. And that's why the next day, that's one of the reasons why the next day we celebrate for this ummah, subhanallah. Our celebration, Eid al-Adha, falls on the day after Allah completed our deen. So it's not just about celebrate. It's not just about the symbolic meaning behind it, with the sacrifice of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he went and he adhered to Allah's command to sacrifice his son Ismail, and the completion of Hajj, but also the completion of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. So it's good to mention that during these times. If you forget to say the name of Allah Azza wa Jal at the beginning, you could say it while you're eating, Bismillah fi awwalihi wa akhirihi, and so forth. When it comes to drink, we talked about eating. When it comes to drinking, it's important as well to know that everything is halal. Everything is halal when it comes to drinking, except, of course, al-khamr, except for alcohol. And also stemming out from the qa'idah, from the rule, okay, everything that harms. So regardless of what name is given to it, regardless, okay, if it harms you, then it's haram. So no one can say, wallahi, Prophet ﷺ, he made this not only through the hadith of لا ضرر ولا ضرار, but also in another hadith, Prophet ﷺ said, ما أسكر كثيره فقليله حرام. Whatever brings about intoxication, if consumed in excess, then also the small amount is haram. So we can't say, for example, drinking alcohol is only haram when it's in excess. No, this is a hadith that specifies it. There's no room to play around. The Sharia made it very clear. طيب. We'll move on, inshallah, to the questions. Like to get a bit practical about things. Just to clarify some of the queries that you have, and we'll do it, obviously, in the best of our ability. So, for example, what was the question that we were asking before regarding some of the things around us today?
Say if one of the samples is like when I went to a coffee shop and to do brunch with some friends, and I chose the vegetarian menus, but they served also like pork. So am I still allowed to eat those vegetarian food like maybe corn fritters or salmon or something like, or maybe sandwich? Am I still allowed to have that food?
Okay, this is a very important question. Now, we spoke about the foods that are haram. And we said that also the extract, what is it? For example, pig meat, what is extracted from it is also haram. Now, some of these restaurants that we go to, they serve pork or bacon and all these pig meat. So we may not be eating pig meat directly. We may be avoiding that, but there's also something that we need to watch out for, which is contamination. Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, he's got a very beautiful hadith. He said, do not eat and drink from the cups and from the bowls of Ahl Kitab, people of the book. And he said to us, because they drink alcohol from them, and because they eat pork and food that is not halal from it. That's the wisdom, behind it. And of course, the ulama, they got into a lot of detail. This is a fiqh issue. This is a jurisprudence issue that has been gone into a great detail. So what we need to know, not getting into the different schools of thought and different opinions, what we need to understand is that if we know that they have washed it thoroughly, it's been cleansed thoroughly, then it is allowed. It is okay. Okay? That's sort of the rule that we can go by in this situation. The problem is now, how do you know how thoroughly they've washed it? And how do you know, for example, if you go to a place that sells burgers, you might order the vegetarian burger, but you know that they use a grill, or they use, and they put the patties on the grill. So you might have the vegetarian burger here, and you might have the bacon here on the same grill. So the contamination, it's bound to occur. There might be, for example, they might say to you, yeah, we make sure we remove the pork or the bacon, but they might just remove it. For example, if they give you a burger and you see that there's bacon in it, but then they say, oh, sorry, and they remove the bacon from the burger, would you eat it? No, because there's contamination. It's already touched it. And the same thing goes with the grill. The same thing goes with the wok or the pot or the pan or whatever they're using. So with halal certification bodies in Australia, they they ensure that when it comes to halal, when it comes to cooking halal, or when it comes to the instruments that are used for the halal meat and so forth, that it is all separate. When you go to Coles, there's a Coles in Roxburgh Park. You guys know the Coles up there in Roxburgh Park? So they're halal certified, but they do sell bacon and stuff, yeah. But all the machinery that they use to mince the meat and the and the storage of the meat, it is kept separate from the non-halal food, from the bacon and all this sort of stuff. And they use separate utensils, and they use separate, the gloves are different. Everything is different. And those were the conditions in order for them to obtain these halal certifications. So what I say, my dear sisters, is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, and fear Allah as much as you can. If you can avoid a place that sells bacon and all this, then go to a place that doesn't. That's my advice. Just to be safe, to be sure that that there's no contamination in the food that you're eating. And that's a very important rule. There are, alhamdulillah, there are plenty of halal restaurants, plenty of halal butchers. There's plenty of halal, alhamdulillah. Allah Azza wa Jalla made it easy for us in this country. The options are there. So, it's best, because a restaurant, remember, for a restaurant to obtain a halal certificate, okay, they must not have bacon or anything like that on their premises. They shouldn't have that, because it becomes hard to monitor, really. Now, Coles is because it's such a large supermarket, so they've managed to actually separate everything completely. But they have the certification they've obtained. They're undergoing thorough monitoring, and constant regulation. But not every restaurant, after they obtain it once a year, this certificate, halal certificate, and then you might have a supervisor coming in every 6 months. So it's very hard to monitor all the details. So generally, the halal certifying bodies generally avoid issuing, or they should avoid issuing, certification to a place that serves bacon and pork and alcohol and things like that. This is generally the rule, and as Muslims, this is something. It's a shubha that we don't need to engage in. It's a suspicious act that we should really keep away from. I hope that answers the question, inshallah. What other questions do we have?
Jazakallah khair. Open for 3 more questions from the sister, inshallah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And as we know, a lot of halal restaurants here who provide alcohol as well. Are we allowed to eat the food? They all halal, but they provide the alcohol. So yeah, are we allowed to eat the food in the restaurant?
I would avoid them, but we are allowed to eat, as long as we know that they're not using alcohol in their food, and we know that when they're cooking, they're not using bacon and pork on their grills. And as a product, we are allowed to eat it. If these things are not there, they're not present, we are allowed. But it's best to avoid them. Just to avoid them. It's because it's not good to be around it, to be around the place. It's not good to be around it because as a Muslim, it's a shubha. It's a place of suspicion for a Muslim to be in. As a Muslim, we should not put ourselves in a place where we are exposed to fitna, exposed to these things. We might fall into haram by doing that. So, subhanallah, يعني, as the Prophet ﷺ said, فِرْ مِنَ الْمَجْذُومِ فِرَارَكَ مِنَ الْأَسَدِ, meaning run from the sick one the way that you run from a lion. Yani run away from people who are calling to haram. Run away from places that expose you to haram. Keep away from them. This is better. Yani. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ittaqu shubuhat." Keep away from suspicion, from acts of suspicion, acts of uncertainty, things that don't seem right. And then he said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. Those who keep away from acts of suspicion, then they have safeguarded their deen and their honor. So it's a part of our test living here, subhanallah. It's a part of our test. So as a food, the halal certified. There's no consumption of, they don't use bacon or pork or anything like that. They don't use alcohol when they cook in their food. As a food, it's halal. We cannot say it's haram. But it is best to avoid being around that environment. Okay?
Assalamualaikum. We have a question about in here we have like opportunity to work as a kitchen hand or like people who serve food that maybe sometimes it's not halal. So what do you think about that?
This is fatwa that's been given long time ago in regards to working in such places. As a Muslim, it's best not to work in these places except in a state of necessity. So if they can't find another job, they can do it, and while they're doing it, they're looking for an alternative that works for them as Muslims. Because they're going to be opening up a bottle of wine, they might be cutting up bacon and pork. I mean, you tell me as a Muslim, do you feel comfortable doing that? Would you feel comfortable doing that? The Prophet ﷺ said it, there's a hadith, and subhanallah, he knew that we're going to come to a time of extreme uncertainty and suspicion. He said to us, the meaning of the hadith, there will come a time where one of the Sahaba asked him, he said, Ya Rasulullah, there's going to be, if I can't find, he said, if I want to know something halal or haram, he said, refer to the Kitab and Sunnah. He said, if I come to a time where I can't get that clear answer from the Kitab or Sunnah, or I can't really understand, or whatever the reason is, he said, فَاسْتَفْتِ قَلْبَكَ, then refer back to your heart. Your heart. Go by what your heart tells you. So as a Muslim, subhanallah, it's one of the great blessings of Allah that He's, and this is part of the guidance, part of hidayah. A part of hidayah that Allah Ta'ala gives a believer a heart that is awake, a heart that is aware. So, subhanallah, you know, when Allah Azza wa Jal, when you are someone who fears Allah and you يعني, you adhere to Allah Ta'ala's commands and you follow the Sunnah in the best of your ability, and you perform your fara'id and your nawafil, you know, all these acts of worship, then, you know, you become closer and nearer to Allah Azza wa Jal. You become actually a wali of Allah. ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون. The awliya, who are the awliya of Allah? They are the ones who believe and fear Allah Azza wa Jal. So when you're in that position, in that state where Allah Ta'ala loves you, you come nearer to Allah Azza wa Jal. وَلَا يَزَالُ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ. My servant continues to come nearer and closer to me through nawafil, through the nawafil, meaning the supererogatory acts, the sunnah prayer, the constant yani, act of ibadat, you know, the sadaqah and so forth. You come nearer and nearer to Allah, and then Allah Ta'ala becomes your eye, becomes the eyes that you see with, and the ears that you hear with, and the hand that you used to, and the legs that you used to walk with. And what does that mean? It means that the guidance of Allah Ta'ala will be with you in all of these, in your, you know, through the way you see things, through the way you hear things. So the qalb, the heart of a believer is the believer's guidance. You know, if they come to a point where they are unsure of what's going on. So you ask yourself as a Muslim, do you feel comfortable being, yani, handling these sort of things, knowing that they are haram, knowing that they are najis? Because these are najis. It's najasa. Alcohol is najasa. And pig is najasa. They are najis. So are we allowed to handle najis? Not allowed. Unless we are in a state of desperate, of necessity, where we have, subhanAllah, done everything we can to find a job and we couldn't find except there. Only in that extreme circumstance we can do it, just to get us through, and, you know, until we find something else. And this is the fatwa I always give out to our brothers and sisters.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sheikh, I got a question about if there is an alcohol content in like hand sanitizer or perfume, maybe. It is not consumed by ourselves, but we use that in daily life. Regardless, like a perfume is haram for some of the women. That question is. Thank you.
This is an area of difference amongst Ahlul Ilm, amongst the scholars and the jurists. The majority said that it's okay if it's used in that form. Okay? Hand sanitizer or something like that. Because what happens is it changes its form. It's no longer in the ethanol form of alcohol where you know, when it's used in consumption to drink. Imam al-Shafi'i has another opinion, and he says that it's haram. Anything with alcohol extract is haram. Yani if it's the alcohol, if it's in its form or not, is haram. Now in its form, when it's in its original form, it's haram. We know that. But if it's becoming into a different form, Imam Shafi'i says no, this is still haram. But majority said it's okay. Now we say that it is okay bi'idhnillah ta'ala to use it if it's changed its form. It's no longer in its original form. But if you don't feel comfortable using it, then don't use it. Okay? in when it comes to these certain issues, I'll give an example. For example, medicine. We know that in medicine, alcohol, if it's used in medicine or anything that is haram to consume, if it is used in medicine, it is haram to use it. If it's in its form, if it's in its original form, even for medicine. We know this. How do we know? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said clearly, he said, there is, he said, Inna Allah anzala ma kulli da'in dawa. Allah Ta'ala brought down with every ailment, every illness or disease or ailment, Allah brought down a cure for it. So Allah did not bring down a disease except Allah brought down a cure. Of course, it's up to us to discover that cure. And then he said, فَلَا تَتَدَاوُ بِحَرَامٍ. And so do not seek cure in what is haram. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, you will not find a cure in what Allah has made haram upon you. You will not find a cure in what Allah has made haram upon you. Now, this is not the issue. The issue is when its form is changed. You know, through, for example, you know, the combustion of its molecules. You know, it's burnt. If it's made in a different way, there is a molecule extracted from it, from that particular yani. So, طبعا, it's an area of khilaf amongst the scholars. I would advise to find an alternative. If you know that something, if you know that there is in that particular, for example, sanitizer, there is the alcohol, yani, or, you know, in it, the ethanol, or, you know, I would say find something that doesn't have it. Find something that doesn't have it.
Assalamualaikum. My question is, if a certain food product such as soy sauce or durian, something that previously doesn't have any alcohol content in it, but becomes fermented to have some, if only just a little alcohol, is that permissible for us to eat? Thank you.
It's not permissible if it has alcohol. But the other way around it is. So if for example, the example of this the scholar spoke about is vinegar. Okay. So if the alcohol is burnt from it, and you're only left with that part, the vinegar part, then it becomes okay. The illah is gone. The illah meaning the reasoning behind the tahrim of it. So the reasoning behind why it's haram. This is a rule in usul fiqh. If the illah is gone, if the reasoning is removed, then there's no more sabab. There's no more reason. Okay, so the illah, the reasoning, is the intoxication of that. So if that is removed and it's no longer there, then it becomes okay. It's no longer, يعني its form changes from a form of يعني haram to a form of halal. Now, if it changes from a form of, like you're saying, soy sauce, and then it ferments, and then it becomes alcohol, of course it becomes haram. If there's, even if it's a very minor amount. Yeah. Does that answer the question, man? With? No.
What about nutmeg?
What's that one?
But
Does that? What does that contain? Contains.
if we consume the nutmeg in certain of amount, it may contain khamar because khamar is it? Yeah, alcohol.
Oh, you mean like a sweet? Or no?
No, it's a
Like a liquor?
dried fruit, dried.
Oh, dry fruit.
Dried fruit or dry seed. Yeah, it's the seed of the nutmeg. Nutmeg is spice. Yeah.
So it might contain alcohol?
Yeah.
Really? Like intoxicating alcohol?
From a lecture of
Yeah. Yep.
told that you cannot use nutmeg for spice.
I can't answer it because I'm not sure of that itself. Yani, I don't know about the nutmeg. Maybe inshallah I'll look it up. Yeah. Is it black color? Brown? And they put it with rice and stuff? Is that the one? Okay. I wasn't aware that this may contain. So this may contain. It can become. I guess if it's going back to the rule. Okay, if the reasoning. The illah, if the illah is removed, if there's no illah, if there's no form of fermentation, sort of, if there's nothing that suggests that it is alcohol, it is in a form of alcohol, as in the intoxicant alcohol, then there's nothing wrong. There's no issue. But if that changes to an alcohol form. Like alcohol comes from everything. Alcohol can come from fruit. It comes from dates. It can come from even honey. It can come from everything, and these are all halal foods. But why it becomes haram? Because the state changes. It's the state that it's in. It becomes a different state altogether. Becomes the intoxication. That's what's haram. The intoxication. So the Prophet ﷺ said, he told us the illah, he said, al-muskir, kullu muskirin haram. Every intoxicant is haram, he said. Every intoxicant. So he gave us the illah, the rationale immediately in this hadith. Okay, he said to us, intoxicant. So if that doesn't contain any form of intoxicant, then I don't see why it's haram. It's from the tayyibat that Allah put on the earth. أُحِلَّتْ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. Everything, going back to the first rule that we spoke about, the tayyibat, the rule is everything is halal on the earth, except what is specified as haram in the sharia. and intoxicant is specified as haram. So if that does not contain intoxicant, it does not change into an intoxicant. I do not think that it's a nut. So I don't think when you pick it out of the ground, it contains intoxicant, because for something to become an intoxicant, it has to go through a process. It's not, you don't just pick it from the earth and it contains intoxicant in it. I highly doubt that. I've never heard of this. So if it changes its form, its original form has changed, then that's when it becomes haram. This is the rule. So go by this rule, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. This is the rule that we should go by.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Could you please clarify about the ruling of hand slaughtered animals and machine slaughtered animals? Thank you.
So hand slaughtered animals, obviously, are you talking about the way it's, the way it should be done, or how, the procedure?
I mean, like, so is it all right to consume the machine slaughtered one as well, or is it just only hand slaughtered? Because there are different opinions, and I'm just a bit confused about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only machine slaughtered animals that I'm aware of, as far as halal meat goes, are the chicken, the birds. Or not the chicken, the birds generally. They have like a production line, and they have a way of slaughtering them. So the slaughter of an animal, because we spoke about the blood, the dam al-masfuh. So we want to ensure that when we slaughter an animal, that all of the blood leaves the body, gushes out, and that's why we slaughter it from, we slaughter the main arteries, so that, because the heart's still pumping. So when you cut the main arteries, the heart is still pumping, and the blood will gush out. So the animals, when they're slaughtered, they're done in that way, that the main arteries are cut, the blood gushes out, the name of Allah is mentioned, Bismillah, and they're slaughtered. There's no problem with that in regards to the sheep, the cattle generally. But when it comes to birds, because what happened was, because it became a production line, so there was, there were large, extremely large numbers that would need to be produced, and therefore, it would not be viable for a person to sit and slaughter each chicken one at a time. So a fatwa was released from the contemporary scholars that allowed machine slaughter for the birds. They allowed it, and of course, the name of Allah is mentioned. There'll be someone who's saying the name of Allah, Bismillah, and the chicken, they're hung in a way where they go through like a machine, and they're cut, they're slaughtered. So when that happens, the blood gushes out, and all of the the form that we seek as Muslims, the way it's, the blood leaving the quick death, all that is taking place. So there was a fatwa released by all the scholars of today, all the scholars. It's almost in a place of ijma', of consensus among scholars that this is allowed. Even some of the very strict scholars, they allowed this. So there's no problem with that, inshallah ta'ala. Only with the sheep and cattle and that we do it the other, we do it by hand, yani. Because the size of the animal, it's and plus you really, because it's a big neck, you really need to make sure that it's being done yani properly.
Is that okay with two more questions? Sure,
Yeah.
inshallah. So, question from a friend of mine via WhatsApp application, that what about the anesthetic during the surgery? Is that considered as haram or not? And one more about the ingredients in packaging food, like if food like canned fruit, there's no halal stated in the can, but we can see the ingredients.
Yeah.
Can we use that for as the guidance?
The ingredients are on the can. Yeah, of course you can. There's look, we want to be cautious, but not too like we don't want to go to too much extreme as well. Like that's important as well. So what is clearly haram? You know that it's clearly haram. You see alcohol in a product, it says alcohol. You see pig fat. Stay away immediately. But we don't want to get into the details where we start looking at the emulsifier numbers and then we go open this.
The halal ecots list from that, is that?
Yeah, well, for example, if there's an emulsifier that is a pure extract from pig, say, and it's very clear that it is, we keep away. But if it's something that says it's possibly this, possibly that, for example, the gelatin, we don't know. Gelatin could be from any animal, really. So there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't know something for sure, there's no need to get into that detail. Our deen is about yusr, easiness, not about complication. So we'll go by that, inshallah. We'll go by that rule. Yeah.
I think during the surgery.
Yeah. You mean if it has anything, that's?
I mean, is it considered as haram or not?
Because of what it contains, you mean, or because of what it does?
Some anesthetic drugs can contain alcohol, and those drugs are usually used intravenously, injected into the body before surgery to make the patient lose consciousness.
Yeah, there's no problem with anesthetic, inshallah, because anesthetic is not being used here as a cure. It's being used as it's being used for the purpose of for you numbing that area, so you don't feel the pain there. So it's a form of necessity. This one, it's fine. There's no problem, inshallah, in using it. Yani, Allah Azza wa Jalla does not command us to go through extreme suffering and pain and agony, and then that might result into other problems, because we can't use an anesthetic because it may contain No, we have to measure these things. We have to balance these things out properly. You know, anesthetic. When a person takes anesthetic, they're going into a operation. The theater, a surgery theater, or they're going into. So they're in a state of darura, necessity, and there's no problem, inshallah, with that.
So, no more questions? Or more queries? Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We learned so much today about what do's and don'ts. Inshallah, we learn a lot. And
if there are questions later on you want to ask, I can always give my email, or inshallah, you can always write me an email and explain. We can answer that. Inshallah ta'ala.
inshallah, we can share your email through the WhatsApp groups. Inshallah. Thank you. So, jazakumullahu khairan kathira. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. So, we close our lecture today by reading the Kafaratul Majlis, saying istighfar. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.